Let's get started without further ado. I would like to invite our guest to the podium. Mr. Ryota Fujitsu is a programming advisor for TIFF and an animation critic. Mr. Shinji Higuchi, film critic and director. Film director. Mr. Naofumi Higuchi, film critic and director. And Ryusuke Hikawa, animation and special effects researcher and specially appointed professor at Meiji University Graduate School. Thank you very much. Fuji-san, first of all, could you please explain why ULTRASEVEN was featured in the Japanese animation competition this year? My name is Ryota Fujitsu, the programming advisor. So since I came into this charge, the Japanese animation part started to have special effect or Tokusatsu. And this year, ULTRASEVEN is hitting its 55th anniversary. It's a milestone year. That's why it was decided to be picked up. That's the biggest reason, I would say. Okay, I will now give the MC microphone to Fujitsu-san. Yes. So we would like to hear from each one of you. Let's start from Shinji Higuchi-san. Hello, in Marunouchi. My name is Higuchi. Good to see you. May I start? Yes. So I've been working with Shinji Higuchi, and maybe we have a similar or closer roots or something. My name is Naofumi Higuchi. I teach at Meiji University Graduate School, and when I teach special effects, ULTRASEVEN is one of the major topics that I often pick up. Good to see you, and thank you for having me here. Thank you very much. So please take your seat. So the actual screenings talk had the staff members for the program at the time, but in this particular session, we talk about what you learned and got from ULTRASEVEN and what type of things we want to hand down to the next generation. So it's almost like we were looking at ULTRASEVEN from the outside, not the insider views necessarily. So I would like to first hear your personal experience with ULTRASEVEN. And since you three know each other, you can just have a very free conversation. Well, I don't want to have my order to be first. It should be the order of age. Yes, let's do that. So let's start from Hikawa-san. And you may be wondering, but I have this special thing with me. It's actually the cover page of Shonen magazine, and ULTRASEVEN was on this cover page, as you can see, and this was my very first encounter with ULTRASEVEN. So I thought ULTRASEVEN ended, and then I was surprised to find out that it would start again. A certain TV program ended on the TV, and we would tend to have a new set of episodes. So there was a little bit of connection that it was coming from M78 or something, but still it was a new series. And in the mid-70s, when people got together, we had this club talking about Ultraman, and everybody said this. Look at this part. Why is he wearing a glove? That's what they thought. So it looked the same, but it was slightly different. Ultraman had like a very strong rubber gloves, and it didn't look like gloves, so something else or something different will be starting, we thought at the time. And Ultraman and ULTRASEVEN, right in between there was Thunderbird, so there was a lot of toys and figures and stuff like that. So And when we say Ultraman 1, 2, 3 or something, it's pretty much like Thunderbird as well. And as mentioned, when I teach in my college classes, the TV cartoon history, if you will, or the level went up. We saw a lot of mechanical stuff, and also the difference of Ultra 7 and Ultraman, there's this mechanical part, but the biggest difference is that Ultraman didn't really have a certain philosophy or the topic. The character had certain role and being strong or whatever, and then there was this upper hierarchy organization above the police, but you don't really know how exactly. But then the new series, we had the Ultra Force and then the Far East, and there was some contextual explanation, and then Special Force or the Elite Force was there, and that was Ultra Warriors. And they talk about this is Kiriyama, and he's the head, and he's this year old, or something like that. So it talked really about the context, including people's background and ages, so that they clarified that situation and context. And I think Ultraman really took up that kind of trend as one of the first such doers or the programs. And since I was 9 or 10 years old, I wasn't that analytical at the time, but I still saw that they were doing something special. And at that time, I didn't notice exactly, but it was about aliens rather than the monsters or kaiju. And because they have intelligence, we had some clash of civilization, for example. So it was a higher level things that they were talking about. So Ultra 7 and Ultraman really laid the foundation of this series. Maybe I should really conclude my part around now. Okay, let's hear from Naofumi-san. I am a little younger than Hikawa-san. How old are you? 9 or 10 years old difference? Or how old were you? Excuse me. I was 9 or 10. Ultra Q, Ultraman, Ultra 7. When those things were out, I was 4 years old or something, and I was actually watching all of these programs then and there. And what I remember the most is that since it was the time of black and white TV, and we only had a small black and white TV, it was black and white I was watching, but everything I watched, it had a color. I think it's because of these magazines. So you basically put colors in your mind. So I have a strong impression of color image. And just like Hikawa-san said, we had that type of changes from Ultraman, just like he said. But then the costume or the suit, bodysuit, the color and the style changed quite a bit, and they became much cooler. So they had specific design intent, I think, in this new series, and I think it was the strong influence of the Thunderbird, and there was an African word, that type of different programs coming from non-West. So there were that kind of designs, and I later found out what it was. Oh, and there was an expo in Japan 3 years later, and the symbolic sun kind of object, it had African element in it as well. So there was non-Western design influence in it. So I was watching Seven, and then the Expo came up, and there's sort of connection between these two things. So the Expo became like SF because of ULTRASEVEN maybe, and I liked both of them. And then again, this kind of design philosophy was there at the time, and I don't necessarily think this is too much of an exaggeration. In this sun object, there is this life tree, and now it's something that you can actually physically get in. And I know all of you in the audience know, but this life tree in this sun object, the tree was designed by Toru Narita, who designed ULTRASEVEN series as well. And Tsuburaya Production actually physically created it. So we have that kind of difference. And then later on, I have these connections between these two events. And at that time, I really saw that type of stories and the design philosophy, and even a 5-year-old kid got it. And I keep carrying that around, I suppose. So Seven really is still new to me, even though it's 55 years old. I trust that as my treasure.
Thank you very much. So let's go to the Higuchi-san. When I saw the program, I was just 2 years old. So I actually couldn't understand how to say. So you actually watched the broadcasted version. Yeah, I think so. Maybe that was just the 3rd or 4th years old. I was too child, a little bit, very little kid at that moment. If I, talk about the SFX here, I'm just cheating against others because I didn't have the real experiences with the real-time program when I was a kid. Ultraman is very close to us. I mean, was close to us because we saw the behavioral rationalization of the each member of the Ultraman warriors, and then their characteristics were very close to us. But the Seven was very, very stylish. No kids were allowed to get into the base, right? So I felt like that Ultraman 7 was a little bit tough and very serious. Dan Moroboshi is not the humankind. So he is not the real human, but he just rejects to have the alien here in the Earth. So I feel that kind of like the conflict and the seriousness there. I didn't have the capability to compare those different worlds at that moment. Invader actually was affected by the cinema or the Ultraman maybe. Yeah, I think so. So the SF is something we accepted already. However, that was the series of the animation, so I actually felt a thrill there. So the spy, action, those elements were there. And very difficult to explain here, but the music was awesome. Very modernized music. Higuchi-san's Ultra Q or Ultraman music were very jazzy, and then that was a little bit ethnic taste there. But compared to the Ultraman music, I mean the Seven was like very solid and very metallic and stylish music. That's what I felt. So when they went out to the field, the English music were there. And I was like, oh, very cool English, because that was just the 4 years old kid. And also the Ultra Hulk got up, and there was the announcement in English too. I actually didn't understand anything about the English there because I was 4 years old, but I was like, maybe English music, English announcement, oh, that were very cool. That's what I felt. So I was like, oh, that is very cool program. And Even though I didn't understand the logic or the fine things, but I felt that was just the cool. That was the one thing that I actually believed in, but that was just the cool for me. Yeah, in the year 7, there were initials right there. I couldn't understand. There was no description about that. TDF is terrestrial something. Yeah, that was true. What did they say when they got up? Force? Yeah, force get on or something. Yeah, quickly, and then he said something and they got up. Did they say, let's go? Oh, I thought that was all right. And then they need to evacuate, right? But they said, let's go. Because the machine was very powerful, so everybody was blown up, so they need to escape. Yeah, by the way, since you are the expert of each area, so I really want you to mention your expert a little bit. So, Hikawa-san, by the way, about the, you actually mentioned the history of the manga or the cartoon for the kids. In the history, what was the positioning of Seven in the course of the time? In 1963, Iron Man Atom were broadcasted, and the cartoon made in Japan flourished afterwards. 3 years later, at the New Year's Day, Ultra Q was broadcasted. So the gods of manga started Atom with the Tezuka. Tsuburaya started Ultra Q in 3 years later. And they are actually at the same timing, Wonder Q, produced by the Tezuka, were broadcasted at the same time. However, Ultra Q was more popular than that. And Seven broadcasted in 1966, 1 year later, 2 years later. So at that moment, they were quite serious about the SFX. So at the planning sheet they wrote, this is the program covering from the elementary to high school kids. So the Yamato is was something, they thought about it. Excuse me, TV cartoon, TV manga, that was something, a very old expression, right? That was not true in the past. When I looked at the advertisement, they always said TV manga to cover everything. So TV manga was written there clearly. So there was no clear differences or clear categorization between the manga versus the SFX, to be honest with you. Music, scenario writers actually were identical in some cases. Also, TV station had the tremendous power because they understood the TV was very well monetized and they could earn money. That's why they actually developed the studio and they actually were involved in those activities there. 7, maybe Ultraman 2, TBS actually broadcasted Jetman or 8-man, like an egg-shaped, and then they had the color there. And Ultraman was very similar to them. And then Super Jet, by the way, one person came to the future, and then they communicated with the current person. So the atmosphere was very similar, and the Ultraman secret said, he said, that is just the 7th division of the police. However, there was 8-man before, so the background or the some concepts were very similar between the 8-man and the Ultraman. And also the TBS staff who were involved in the Ultraman deeply, and then the staff at the 8-man also were involved in the Ultraman 2. And the TV manga as a whole, 1 year before Ultra Q, when I looked at the list of the programs, there were so many space, all the space. So space was the very popular word there. what was it? For example, Party of the Spaceman, or the so many space anime there, and there's a monster or a kaiju there, and they had the Ultraman. So the space or the kaiju or big monster were very popular at that moment, and that was a trend. And one story of the Ultraman 7 or Ultraman were about the space base, right? And actually the Ultraman Warrior evolved to the space, defense force or something at the end of the day. So that was just a bridge between the manga to the space-based story. And then they really want to create the space story, and they want to capture the Cold War there. I think that was the background of the Ultraman Ultra 7 at that moment. By the way, Ultra 7 as a title, that was a little bit about the space drift, a little bit. Yeah, I think so. I think so too. So that was just about the ancient man, not the space. I think so. I think that was not the space one, but the ancient man. Because the Ancient Man comedy would be something very good to broadcast, and that was something they thought at that moment. So the underseas or the ancient era or space were the very catchy and popular words or the concept at that moment. So they just created so many planning sheets, and they tried to get acceptance from the director. Yeah, I think that was the moment. And the Ultra 7 was not a hero, however, Ultra Warriors were the defense force.
So by doing that, your enemy was aliens, and they have intelligence, so there's intelligent conflict, so that becomes more like a true drama. And kaiju in the 7 is like a biological weapon. I mean, there are some exceptions, but it's like that. And ultimately, it created some kind of a stereotype or the certain good format, I guess. And the kaiju or the monster became a biological weapon in a full-fledged way, and it became how the 7 is. So listening to what you were saying, there's this TV station that's like a bigger framework, and then there's this TV manga or TV cartoons, all those peripheral things were there. Those were money-making cows, and the productions also were there as well. I mean, looking at other stations like Fuji TV, before they started Gegege no Kitaro or the Kitaro animation, Akuma-kun was there. I mean, that's from TV Asahi, but Toei and Kodansha Publishing Company were talking about that. In terms of media mix, though, I mean, which special effects or which one is more advantageous, like special effect? And at the time, special effect was supposed to have a lower cost compared to animation, so there was that kind of view as well. So with that, Ultra 7 stood in that particular context. But from Tsubuya Daya production, Mighty Jack was going on around at the same time, so that was hard, I guess. Naofumi-san, this question is to you. Of course, you specialize in Japanese movies as well. So the relationship between Ultra 7 and the Japanese movies, what do you see? So when we are saying TV movie, who do you know what that is? Okay, there are a few of you, so let me just briefly talk about that. In 1958, the post-war movie golden time really peaked, and the box office number really hit the peak. Then the Japanese television really became prevalent, and it had the big leap. And then Japanese movies really nosedived basically in terms of the box office numbers. So in this economic boom, TV was growing. And originally, TV stations, as you know, I mean, they had Space Family Robinson, or they actually brought some of the foreign TV programs, such as American TV programs. So these are filmed, but these are TV programs. So that's what we call TV movie. So they use films, but they air that on TV. So they imported those things from the West, and because they couldn't make those on their own, they were airing those imported programs. And some of you, when you were little, you really knew how great these programs were already. So you already had a discerning eye. And then TV stations in its infancy started in 1960 or so to finally make their own productions because they couldn't buy everything from overseas. So they grew some directors. They would have this TV movie division to grow people and produce programs. And the most expensive one was special effect. And Ultra series or Ultra 7 was one of the most expensive ones among such things that were made. So the TV industry was moving and the entire country was booming economically, and that's when this product was created. But in reality, was the actual shooting locations or workplaces, were they affluent? When I ask actual directors, they always say we had no money. So they really were adventurous, doing a lot of things, but it's not that they were financially abundant. And what made these Ultra 7 series great is that in that a bit messy situation in its infancy, they really had this excitement and enthusiasm to make these TV programs, and these young staff members really had their own philosophy or own desires to do a lot of things. So a lot of young talents came in. Ryusuke, who was the art part, he graduated from Musashino University or art school. He was 26, 27 and already came into this program. I mean, a young person like that would not have that kind of career breakthrough right at the beginning. I mean, in the film industry, it's oftentimes they just have to work as an assistant, whatever, for 10 years or something. But these young talents came into the TV industry and were able to have their career breakthrough. And those young, motivated people were there. So their motivation really were put into these Ultra 7 series or Ultraman even. And I often hear this kind of story in the animation world. They didn't have money and time, but at the time it could not be recorded, so it was like once you air it, it's gone. So because of that nature, really, they tried a lot of different things, being adventurous. They didn't worry too much about being scolded or blamed. So people in their 20s, they really tried a lot of things, and then they had like, oh, we still have next week, even if we fail or something like that this week. But now we have this rigid system, and people were really restricted, and those systems are made by older people, but adults, but people record those programs and nitpick things, so it's totally different. And if you fail, I mean, it will be really blamed on the internet, but it's totally different at that time. In the Showa era, they could have tried a lot of things. And those young people got certain experience leading to Ultra 7. So that's how 7 was developed. And when I watched 7, we don't have too many ones that was shot by Jitsu-san. Because he did a lot of things, the Tsuburaya members were very much affected. So maybe other directors, I mean, it was almost like the new era or the new movement. Yeah, I thought Jisoji-san's episodes were many more, but when I actually took a look at the list, there weren't that many episodes made by Jisoji-san. Kiyoshi Suzuki-san, the cameraman, his frames were really affected by Jisoji-san, even though it's not directed by Jisoji-san. It's exactly like Jisoji-san's taste and flavor. And in the last episode, we had how the light was projected, and Jisojiism, if you will, was really penetrating there. And people really copied Jisoji-san in a very bold and kind of obvious way. There was good lighting, and there was good exposure, and the frames got really darker and darker, more contrast. Yes, and the night scenes were much more in the 7 series compared to the before. Yes. So the lighting people at the time, there was an interesting person, Tetsuya Kobayashi-san. Yes. He later became the president of Nihon Gendai Kikaku. This company made a lot of special effect programs, and those people who were laid off by Tsuburaya were hired by this company later. So the frames or the pictures got darker and darker at the time, and there was no TV cinema at the time. It was film delivery, and then there was aerial synthesizing machine or something. So you would project certain things, and there's a condenser, and then that's how the TV camera was airing that, and it was airing as like a live stream. So they actually run this 60mm film, and people noticed that it was very much dark, and Jisoji-san didn't like that to be brightened up, so he talked to Sagawa-san, and two of them just went. And Sagawa-san, you are physically stronger, so just block this person to make it lighter or something. He did something like that.
He actually squeezed the sensitivity, the machine or equipment, and he was very powerful at that moment. But Jisoji has the passion to go into the company, so she actually did whatever he wanted to do. The dissolution of the TV, quality was incomparable. And that was very bad before. But look at that, 4K. Before 4K, why don't we try to see the initial version of the screen or the resolution or the quality of TV? I think I remembered IMAX or something that actually compared between just the home TV versus the screen TV, cinema. So like that, why don't we compare between the quality in 50 years ago versus the 4K? And we started this, and then VHS, and the quality improved, and then data disk invented. I really wanted to see that kind of evolution of the QOL of the screen. Hey, it's rare, why don't you do that? The reverse of the 4K. In 1/4 of K, I think time, traveling type. Okay, go to Higuchi-san. So, what is the characteristic of the ULTRASEVEN SFX? Sorry, I'm not the person from the Tsuburaya, but I need to say this. Ultra Q, Ultraman, for the previous versions. And then a person in charge of this effects founded his own company, and he had a contract with the Toho, and separately he created the different effects. So in the beginning, he recruited some persons from the Toho, but he wanted to grow the youngsters. and those youngsters supported him. And then they created the Ultraman, a big shot hit. And what was the backfire? That was the huge deficit and the delay of the schedule. All the staff were transferred, and he realized that he was not able to run the company anymore. So he really wanted to tighten the schedule in the next time. So he had the great success. However, he needed to tighten the schedule and the organizational discipline. They believed in their quality or the skill set. And then, however, they gave up creating Ultraman. And also the Toho created a very similar program. And that company thought, oh, maybe we could do that because the quality of Toho was just so-so. So we could do that. And then Thunderbird launched. And then this is not the Thunderbird event, sorry, but I need to say this. But we had the Suzuki-san the other day, and he talked about the Thunderbird. Oh, really? And then they created the 7. And then Jun Aoki was there. Actually, he passed away, unfortunately. And Aoki-san said Tsuburaya cared about the 7. And then they imported the King Kong and they counted the number of cells. And then he said Aoki-san went to the UK to see the Thunderbird. However, Aoki-san didn't go there, unfortunately. Tsuburaya-san went there instead, in reality. And he was like, studio of the Thunderbird was very small, so you could do that here in Japan too. Oh, that was very bad. I think the audience can understand. There was a way to the Toho's way, but the Ultra Hawk was created by hand. Or was it because of the Thunderbird? I think so. Yeah, the person in charge of the moving the doll actually created the movement. Oh, really? Yes. Because I only knew about the SFX, so I couldn't believe a person moved the doll by needle or some tweed. And I couldn't believe it, but we didn't have time to do it. According to Kiyoshi Suzuki, at the time of the Ultraman, they used the lure, and in 7, in the middle of the single-digit story, they actually used some jumping dolls. They used the cranes instead of the tweed and also the lures. Oh yes, but they created the cell by hand. That's right. So we didn't have the money, seriously. But the technique and experiences improved. They had the great confidence and they had the knowledge, but no budget. So the scale was very timid, not good, very ambivalent. That's true. But there was one way to go through. We did the CG. For example, location hunting or creating a set, we checked the schedule. But combining the images, that was something at the end of the schedule. And then Nakano-san at that moment was very, very, strict and very severe. So he didn't say yes. So, oh really? Yeah, he really liked the lines, and then he wanted to have the handwritten pictures. Yeah, and also we actually, took out all the water from the set and we created by hand. We created the image, and also the bullets actually were different from the beginning to the end. Oh, that was very unique one, and Iijima-san was very, unique and very interesting, which I remembered. So the motivation was high, however, the no budget, and then they tried to combine the image. That's why the contrast or the structure of the images were very collapsed. Oh yes, that's true. Yeah, I mean at the document there were the 10 cuts, but I don't believe it because there are more cuts in the 7. Understood. So thank you very much for all the comments about the 7. So let's go to the latter part of the talk. So what did you get from the 7? I mean, what was your brand new finding after getting involved Ultraman 7? And then what is your message toward the future viewers of the 7? So Hikawa-san, by the way, what did you get from the Ultraman 7? Oh yeah, I mean when I was the high school kids or the college student, when I was the college, look at this. This was the next version of the TV-kun, published in 1977. Oh, actually, I purchased it. Yeah, that was something. That was my debut book of the SFX, and that was something very good book. Yeah, actually, in other versions, they only, combined Q, Ultraman, and the 7. Yeah, that's true. But this is something only featuring the Ultraman 7 independently. There was the monotone. Why? Yeah, that's true. Well, that is linkage to the no-budget story, because 7 was like, in some parts, Nash was just the black and white, I mean the monotone, because they couldn't print out in color. Yeah, that's true. So they didn't have the budget to print out in color version. So to copy or image or something, I supported. However, we brought the rush from the inventory of the Tsuburaya, and then Puppet Alien was captured. I think Puppet or something. And everything was just black and white. Or everything was just monotone. That's what I thought. That's why the rest of the Puppet was just the white and black and white. And then pictures were very scarce, right? That's right. Because according to the Oshima at the Kodansha, that was a picture, but that was it.
So since aliens come in, it was actually filmed at the stage, but 7 has 2 alien characteristics. One, marionette type of monsters, so many. And then from neck and down, it was, I think, the costume artist's work. Kanao, the apron-like thing, yes. I mean, there's only a mask that was existing. So from neck down, because of the budget, I think it was costume artists' work. And because there were so many monsters that were there, and then the mask actually went away with Sarbe later. Anyways, when I saw 7 as a high school student, I felt like it's a special hero type one because aliens just fake their identity. They fake their identity as people on the Earth, and they had this internal conflict, and there was a lot of emotional conflict that was drawn in these programs. So it was really a big element in any drama or any saga, and then there was certain reason for how they behave and their emotions, and I felt that in the last episode of Ultraman as well. Aliens liking us humans. I mean, I was like, oh, okay, as 8 years old, but I later watched those, and then are we good enough for being liked by those people? I mean, we had nuclear war and all those things that human beings doing in a very wrong or stupid way. I mean, I don't think it's given that aliens would like us on the Earth. That is why I felt a lot of different things. I think it looked even bigger than what they originally intended. And then they had a very detailed and more realistic context and character designing. So the standard type of thing were created in 7, and then they had this drama-like element. And I think the last episode was aired today as well. I mean, the 7 passed away, and does it come back or not? There was a lot of discussion. Tashiro-san said that I think 7 is dead, and he says that without changing his face at all. So he flew, and then he just died. I mean, there's this line saying that, oh, if that's how it is, it was us who killed Dan. And that line now sounds differently, knowing all those different things. So it was very, very valuable. Naofumi-san, what do you think? So we had those bigger themes, and I mean, just like you said, there was a bigger theme like nuclear war, for example. The other thing is that the new Nouvelle Vague or the new movement type of thing, I mean, there was some certain impact coming from that. And then what's similar is that when they don't have any budget, they just manage with budget. There's this movie called Alphaville, and it's just a regular Paris that they film, but they keep saying that it's actually the future, and it's a very good sci-fi movie. So this is just a regular view or the scene, but then they just create a futuristic movie or the looks by how they framed it, how they use the sound, all those things. So Alphaville, I didn't watch that real time because I was too young, but the Ultraman had this operation to really destroy the Earth, but even without that, there was like Alphaville-like element. They just have certain power by how they frame, how they put sound, and totally make all those frames look like future. So that type of capability is what I learned from the Ultraman series. I mean, they say something like, this is whatever planet, but this is TVS studio, of course. There's that. So because they didn't have enough budget, and then when they used up all those ideas, there was this Stolen Ultra Eye episode. When I watched that in the 4K mode, I was moved. Maya is great, right? Do you know who Maya is? Yes. The August without Emperor, I mean, Kono Eriko, Mr. Yamamoto's wife, right? I'm sorry, I'm giving too much details, but yeah, I think that's the exact type of thing that people wanted to hear. So Maya is played by this actor who is in Hayuza, the stage group. So this one girl came out and then looking like she would go dancing, and it says that this is Madler or something, and there was a jukebox-like fixture that was there. So it was very much like the fixture in the Alphaville, or Alphaville. So it was like Nouvelle Vague. So when I watched this once again, there are many episodes where I can read into too much. And when we first saw this Stolen Ultra Eye in 70s and 80s, Maya at the end pressed a button and there's no I. The J was after H, so we thought, oh, this was a stolen I, and there's no I among human beings, and that was a great metaphor, we thought. But then we have a later story. Right next to Kodansha and King Record, there was a cafe in between. I looked at the jukebox, and there was no I on the jukebox because I could be misidentified as one. So I was missing, but we were able to read into certain things, and maybe the camera person just shot that. Wow, that's a great story. So director Mitsuda actually came to the screenings, and the Stolen Ultra Eye episode was talked about. The night scene that they shot at the end in Shinjuku, they used high sensitivity film. So they went to Suzuki-san. They used Arthur 400 without any lights. So what's the point of using 4K, right? I mean, it's more granular pixels-wise, but there were many night scenes, so that 4K in general works well, I heard. So Shinji-san, because there was 7, were you somehow affected? I mean, it was just, I don't think it was just me. I think it's applicable to many people. We were allowed to design things. What I mean by this is that when it comes to aliens, UFOs, or the airplanes of the warriors, not just that, but in addition to that, it was about new music, for example. When it comes to TV programs for kids, they didn't use the type of music. So they really used or quoted some music in a very modern way. And also, storytelling-wise, there were certain design intent in it. So it was design story, it was design images, and the music was right then and there. So those things were allowed even though the program was for mainly kids. And by doing that, we saw all those designs and design intents. And then Spaceship Yamato or Gundam, I mean, we watched all those programs and we loved those things. And of course, that sort of changed our lives. I mean, we were crazy and everything. But that's the level of consideration that they had, so much details. They were not really cutting loose or using shortcuts because they were so meticulous and detailed. It was more high density, I would say. They were pressing this so much and compressing everything. So maybe it's coffee or something, if that gives good metaphor. But there's a compression process in certain things. And when I watch ULTRASEVEN, I mean, compared to the time when I watched Q and Man, I had more of a compression feeling. So when I teach at the university, Toru Narita's design is picked up as well. And one of the big achievements is that the logo of this Warriors, and this design is of course awesome, but the corporate identity or the CI concept was there even when there was no words.
They do have the equipment with the sales, and that was the invention, I think. Well, the world itself has been, designed by the staff. That's what I felt. Higuchi-san and Hikawa-san said, with the design, the concept of the world had been developed. I mean, there is a reason to believe there. Yeah, I think so too. So combining all those elements, I think the viewers felt the reason why some designs were there. The design was flourished at the Banpak, I mean the World Museum at the Osaka held, and then that was something that we held at that moment. I learned many things from 7, which I should have learned in that years. Simply speaking, from the fan or the viewer standpoint, which would be the best episode in 7? Sorry, I just, questioned suddenly to you. Before going to the wrapping up, I just wanted to know your best episode in 7. Who would start? Who would start? Okay, Hikawa-san, please. Max, please call me. Oh, really? Why? Yeah, Max, respond to me. That was something, I felt there was the original plan. SFX, TV manga, there was a hero. And then at the end of the episode, they battled, and then Villa was the alien at that moment. I thought maybe Villa was well captured in that episode. I mean, well, at the end of the battle, they were like the ninja. They just tried to battle with their knowledge and experiences. That was something they wanted to do, I think, yeah, but actually the episode was a little bit different, so, I was like, why didn't they bomb there? So that was something very far from the 7 image, but that's what I like. Okay, Shinji-san. Like a run in 50 something, yeah, run in 7,000 kilometers. I went to the event of the 7, and I was just a kid, and I was 2 years old, but for some reason I was called. Thank you very much, by the way. And in Tachikawa, there was the cinema event for the Ultraman 7, and I was called. And then that run 7,000 kilometers were broadcasted, and that was based on a request from the older fans of the Ultraman 7. I was like, what? Why? There were so many good episodes, but why 7,000 kilometers? And I saw that, and viewers were really excited about it. They laughed and they excited, and everybody actually, talked and shouted. And then they actually punched and they ran, and then they were very laughing, and they were like, yeah, cheer up Ultraman 7. That was something that I felt with the viewers at that moment. Yeah, and at the end of the day, there was the simple battle at the end of the episode, right? Oh, that's right. So with that experience, I think the entertainment inside that episode was marvelous, and Izawa-san did the tremendous work there. And Usta-san actually decided the taste of the 7. Yeah, actually, Dan actually ate the rice cracker in between. That was very fun and unique. And I met with the master-san there, and he was super pure. He was just a kid, child. That's what he was just innocent. So Jisoji, on the other hand, he was very cynical. Yeah, and the episode was like 7,000 kilometers run, and maybe Issa-san actually saw the 5,000 kilometers run in other movie, and he just added 2,000 kilometers additionally, and he got that episode. That's my image. So according to Issa-san, he had the King Joe, and he had the spy compete against their maybe other countries' spies or their specialty police there. And I think he saw just a 007, and he wanted to include that essence into his Ultra 7. Serious episode was good, but that episode was just innocent and very fun. For example, gang episode or Peter at the Ultra Q, those were very innocent and very just fun, just entertainment compared to the serious episode. I think Mr. Sun actually created a great and serious episode, by the way. However, there were some episodes just focusing on the entertainment, just a service to the viewers. That's what I felt, and that was very good characteristics of the Ultraman 7, to be honest with you. Yeah, Higuchi-san, how do you think about it?
その時ハラハラっていうか普通になんかこうヒーローものとしてハラハラしたのにこれ普通に
Well, I
なんだっけ湖の秘密とか
like a secret of the lake was a little bit sensational to me, and the biggest
手
invasion
に汗握ったんですけど
in the history were very serious, and I actually, like he said, Nouvelle Morgue was something very impactful to me, and I was just 5 years old. Maybe I'm just too unique. Maybe, how can I say?
全体というよりは
Rather than the story, but at the first episode, and I saw the cool area, and there was the cool area, and then that's it. Swish, and then that's it. I was like, oh my goodness.
でその以上っていうのがいやこれは何か
Was it just completed? And then that's what I felt.
チャリンって
And afterward, there was a sound, like a ding, and then that was it. And the last alien, that was something that just escaped from the building. That's it. What was the reason why he actually got bigger? That was just fun. And the Kirasa area was good or bad, I don't know. But,
701でしたっけ
I think that was the 701 area or something. And at that moment,
ママと私をこうズンって発達してくれた瞬間
well, that was something I was quite impressed by the 7. Yeah, actually, I was just a numb there.
最たるものがやっぱりちゃんと作品として属したのがやっぱり
And
盗
then,
まれたウルトラ
I mean,
かなーっていう感じ
a stolen Ultra Eye was something the best
私
one.
はがらかされてる瞬間
So, I mean,
いちいち海外
not every episode was just serious, and that was the good buffer for me, and then that led to the stolen eye of Ultraman, and that was very, very fun. And then the hero actually shot other, colleagues there, and that was just amazing and surprising to me. I understood. Look at that. Everyone didn't choose Jisoji-san's films and Jisoji-san's episode. Oh yeah, that is something about the common sense among us. What about other series? Maybe you don't pick up the popular one. You want to be just the special or the episode. How can I call this atmosphere? You try to pick up something very unique one, not the popular one. But accidentally, just accidentally, there was no Jisoji's product. Maybe that just because of the 4K. I mean, Teresa Alien would be surprised because they just, enlarged and they just, are killed by himself. So what is the point of him? Yeah, I mean, he said there is just the only one justice in the space. And that's one of the sense that we are able to see the Ultraman 7. And they try to chase the criminals there, right? Yeah, understood. When I was the school kid, and for example, I actually didn't want to date with someone who are not able to see my eyes or something. Yeah, like look at my eye, eye just was moving, and that was just dangerous. And I actually smelled the gasoline, a smell if he reaches to me. All right, so thank you. I think I have covered almost all themes. So this is just the 55th anniversary. So with this regard, I think there are many viewers from now, many fans for the 7. What is your message to the future fans?
So maybe you can give them a few possible viewpoints and everything before closing this. Well, Hikawa-san, so 66 years of Ultraman. I'm sorry, Ultraman is 1966. It was peaceful, but then there was some students' activism in the next series. So when it comes to Showa, those times were mostly referred to. And then hope and giving up hope, and then having hope again. There's like desperation and hope, and because desperation is known, people find New Hope or something. I felt there were 3 phases like that. So some people were trying to turn back time, and I think because of that kind of trend, I think we can learn from the series. Okay, how about you, Naofumi-san? There are 2 things. One, I mean, I've been saying this over and over again, but there's mainstream type of expression, and then there's some twisted expressions as well. And both of those elements were in the TV manga or the TV cartoon or the TV film category. It's basically full of those things. So they have a broad range of expressions. So if you rewatch these episodes, it almost feels like you're watching these great films or programs of the time called Nouvelle Vague or the New Wave. And just like Hikawa-san said, the Vietnam War was there in the context. So if you watch those episodes with that knowledge, the justice of Kiriyama or the justice of Seven, would they have solved or brought the peace of the space? I mean, the Vietnam War was instilled into these screenplays and writings, and when we see the war in Ukraine right now, everybody has different justice, and it's really difficult to solve any problem. Sometimes we just see 2 parties and feel like one is good, the other is bad, but they have their own justices. So sometimes the sense of justice will not bring the true peace. That's how I felt watching Seven. So I think now again is the time to watch this. Okay, what about you, Shinji-san? So 57 years ago, I was born. And I live a very similar life, similar to these characters. And I mean, what Seven has or what Seven tells us, what do we do? I mean, this person is sort of in the gap time. I mean, Ultraman was like the huge firework. And then after that, what would you do? I mean, writers felt the compelling needs to try something new and something different. So it's not just they can innocently create episodes anymore. So just like the other members said, when we are there to make Ultra 7, I mean, it's like the special trick, for example. It's not like you can easily cut somebody's throat and kill those characters. So whatever the techniques and effects, how do they use those? I think the young, newer generation have to think about that. So there might be 7 like characters to be brought down, but then how do they do that? I guess is the question. Yes. So in my school student reports, students asked me, what was the compliance at the time, cutting throats of everybody? And I'm like, there was no concept of that at the time. Okay, thank you very much. Giving it back to the MC. Thank you very much. It was such a learning experience as well. So now we would like to hear from the audience. You can comment or you can ask questions. So please raise your hand if you are to ask questions. Okay, we have this gentleman who raised his hand right away. We will have a microphone coming to you. Thank you very much for the interesting discussion. Pre-7 and post-7 can be talked about. So 7 really was a epoch-making point in time. When I was a first grader, it was aired, and at the time, Akakage, or Giant Robo, or Koso Casper, Monster Prince, all those programs, I was watching those innocently, and I kind of saw the difference. And Captain Ultra was right there before that. Now Shinji-san, maybe you were very little, so I don't think you watched that in a real time. But I mean, when it comes to other programs that you were watching, how did they watch them? What did you think? And the relationship. And you talked about the influence of Thunderbird, which is often talked about. And they try to make something different from Ultraman. So there's that in the episodes as well. Now, I just want to know the relationship with other programs, or the difference, or how they looked in comparison with Ultraman. So maybe you're asking Hikawa-san and Naofumi-san, I'm assuming. And of course, if you have something as well, Shinji-san. So compared to other special effect programs, Captain Scout was the one that really liked. Ultraman versus Ultra 7 equals Thunderbird versus Captain Scout, I think. The way special effect evolved, or the elements that these two have it. I mean, only in retrospective I knew, but the Captain Scout reality was at great level. And Akakage, I just watched that as silly cartoon and simply enjoyed it. Giant robot. I mean, I have a vague memory of the original airing. Later on, there were reruns, so I watched those in the summertime, and I have bigger impression of that time, so I don't remember the original time, but the Comet was also the one I liked. What about this Kaiju Oji, or the Monster Prince? I was bored right away because each episode wasn't independent, and Protosaurus wise, I mean, there was this rigid things or creatures in it, and it kind of bothered me. And I was surprised how this character evolved later on. I found that on the magazine cover page. But anyways, it was rare that there was continuous episodes. Akakage, I sometimes watched it, sometimes didn't. And then if I watch it later in all episodes, then sometimes that impression override the time that I originally watched the original series or original airing. The Ultra series, of course, is what I liked by far, but I liked all those sorts of things. So I think I watched all Akakage episodes in real time. I was pretty excited, and the ones that you mentioned, all of them, I think I watched them in a real time. I was immersing myself, I would say. But Ultra series, or what Tsuburaya Production and TBS did, they were vastly different. The experienced people who made Ultra series, and then Otoe or other organizations. I mean, when you see the producers or the makers, you will see, because their mindset was very different. I mean, it almost like writers and crafts people. Tsuburaya people, Kinjo-san, for example, or Uehara-san, they're writers. So they wanted to have something new. They wanted to have certain connections between what they make and what's happening in our world, our society. And for example, somebody would say like, oh, there's this African thing, or there's this psychedelic thing that's on trend. They wanted to incorporate those things. So they were like pioneers. When it comes to Monster Prince or Magma, those were very stable programs, if you will. But I mean, people in that generation, they watched Shonen Club or Boys Club, so the programs that they enjoyed, they sort of redid what they enjoyed as a boy. So it was actually more of an entertainment, and that's good, but it's not that they were aiming at something bigger than that.
I don't think that's bad because they actually expanded their patterns of the FX. But we wanted to have more essence or element there, so I was very focused on the Ultra series. Well, actually, I was the kid checking whether the staff created the anime seriously or not. Well, some other man actually or hero was very difficult for me to depict or draw. If that's the case, if that's the sense, I think that was something sacred behind. Yeah, I agree with you. Yeah, because I felt the line between the other manga versus the Ultraman. Captain Scarlet was great. I really loved it. And I was very shocked that that program was not so popular. Maybe the setting or the concept were very difficult. Yeah, dark sub-characters were not so popular, unfortunately. I really loved the Black. Yeah, Black Commander, and I actually have the figure too. Yeah, I was just a baby, so I was scared by the screaming of the kaiju or the big monster. They actually processed the human's voice like this. Sparky, weird voice. I was so scared. Yeah, that was something they used for the Akuma-kun, by the way, different cartoon. Thank you. Did they answer to your question? Yes. Okay, next question. Yes, please. Out of the Toru Fuyuki's music, which one do you like the best? For the Fuyuki-san's music, the energy version of the music of the Ultraman, like just the insert, just for the next program. Okay, that was something about the Zofie's theme later. Yes, that was something I loved. Yeah, actually, like a Max used, and that was very good one, I think. If they used that music, maybe the world would be changed. Yeah, Gotoda would be the main character if they used that music. Yeah, I mean, Jisoji Special is something that I like this music. Classical. And then that was something transferred from their classic in the beginning. That's what I thought. I thought of music, I think. So those series were something that I asked my family to use that for my funeral, to be honest with you. I really love that music. Maybe people actually feel relaxed if they listen to that. I planned and supervised his concert, and I forgot the title, sorry, and I agree with the Hikawa-san, by the way. Anna's theme, that was in the album, I think. But for the Sophie, right? And then that was one of the classic in the beginning, like this, yeah. But that was not true. And I really loved that kind of music. And there were so many remake versions. And I tried to create my playlist to complete, but I couldn't do it yet. Kurata V3, and yeah, there was a little bit BL, boys love. That's what I felt. Yeah, because he killed Zappa. And he said, "Hey, Kurata, and Kiriyama called the Kurata, and that was very BL, boys love, situation, and I listened to the music behind. Actually, I cried every time. I'm not the fan of the BL, by the way, but that scene was very amazing. I think that is the best one that I really like. Well, there were so many episodes. I mean, the different episodes in between the real episode. I think that's what I feel. Okay, please. Next question. I'm just a high school student, so I am not just one of the cells. I was not the one of the cells when the drama was broadcasted in real time. I'm just the second year in the high school. I really need to my career and a very difficult moment that I really need to think. I really want to go to the some screening or the image industry or video, or could you give me the message to go to the image or the video industry and SFX or the image industry? How does the industry evolve from now? I really want to listen to that. Oh, myself? Yeah, sorry, I actually don't prepare a good answer to you. How can I say? I mean, I don't wanna decide his fate. He's just in the high school, so while he is thinking about it, so Hikawa-san, could you share something about the evolution of the image industry? Because how the youngsters are able to commit to their image. I think you care about the AI. Look at the AI illustration. It has been evolved. So AI would go to the video or the movies, right? That would be the near future. So human does not have to create the some products or the movies or the illustrations. I think AI can create the razor or the beam in the Ultraman, right? Yeah, I mean, I think we really need to give some comment or the program to the AI to create the good picture. So I think just the layman is not able to create the good AI to get the picture. So there would be some technicians to give some words or the hints to the AI to get the picture. I think that is something emerging from now. Yeah, I think that's something the different one. So we are not the AI. However, searching the image is something we are very slow, right, compared to the youngsters. So that is one of their good techniques. So my assistant is like, could you give me the materials for me? And sometimes he actually gives me everything. So many things would change. And in my era, there were some discussions how Shinji goes on, and that was the question that I received when I was young. However, at the end of the day, human beings and human actually creates the CG, even though there is a CG. So at the end of the day, the commander should be the human being continuously. So CG was something like the replacing the human in the past, but the reality is like human actually creates the CG. So in SFX, I think the core part of the SFX is something you really need to learn, and we need to use the AI, but the commander should be the still human, I think. So he is just the high school, right? Please increase something you really love or like. Not just a like, but if you have the deep feeling or the deep love against something, that's very good. I mean, my amount of love is larger than you. I'm the one of the largest lover of something. Please create that kind of something you really love deeply. If you create one of them, you are able to expand your experiences or their preferences. Yeah, look at that. Hikawa-san, he loves Yamato for over 50 years, right? That's right. So one thing is like we really need to create the product. And with that, even though the technique might change in the future, you are able to catch up. So the support of the human being is something about the numbers of the like or the love, deep love. So you really need to have the deep love product or something so that you are able to expand other things. You are able to increase the experiences. The amount of the like or the love could be the database or the good one for you to be able to grow. That's something you want to share, right?
So yeah, that's something that you can always pursue. The special battleship Yamato came up when there was no animation magazines. I went to studios and then I took a look at the key animation and I got all of those without any narratives. So I researched on my own and I went to the studio and I tried to figure out how it was made. And I did all those research while thinking, using my own brain. So that type of deep diving, I think, is still helping 50 years later. So if you have something like that, I think that can be applied to many different things. I mean, there's a lot of information sources, so it's tougher in a way. I mean, AI does a lot of things, but do you know what is believed to be remaining? It's a hostess bar's owner or the head person. There's actually deep insight. I mean, movie director is almost like that. I think movie director, I mean, he or she cannot do anything in a way. But then they are the chief, sort of, at the workspace, and they try to elicit everybody's appeals and attractive characters as much as possible. So that type of sense and skills, I think that cannot be copied by AI. And I actually went to one university and I'm teaching some people who want to be directors and critics, but one thing that's really missing, as two of them say, this feeling of love. So you're 17 years old, you already came to this very deep event, so that's great already. And those people who are learning movies, they are not here, so that's kind of too bad. But you are already here, so you already opened the door, I feel like. Maybe it's level 20. So loving something, that will really the last thing that will keep supporting you, how you are, who you are. So what Shinji-san said is very important. The movie that I watched at 17, it still dominates my life. Blade Runner, E.T., all those movies. So the movies that you watched this year, remember them. Find out which one you love the most. I mean, it's almost like a romantic relationship. I think it's the time for you to like a lot of things, and then you will live with all those things. And it's kind of too late if you watch Blade Runner at the age of 35. There's a point of watching that at 17. I think everybody has a movie at age 17. Maybe why don't we have that kind of theme for next talk session? Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, everybody has their own movie at the age 17. And this hostess bar or bars masters thing, I mean, you really learn from other people, you compete, you build a relationship with many people and learn from a lot of people. This type of space where you don't see many other 7-year-olds, I mean, you're already here, you raise your hands, you use your courage to ask the question, so that's great. I think that will deepen you as a person, so. And you don't necessarily understand that way of likening of a bar head, but then anyways, you will find out when you become a bit older. It was an interesting discussion, really. I would love to receive more questions, but there's a time constraint, so we would like to conclude the Q&A part. So why don't we hear some last remarks from everybody? So let's start from Fujii-san once again. So thanks to these three panelists, we were able to hear about the context and background of ULTRASEVEN, and also we talked a little bit about future as well, so thank you very much. And let's hear from each of the panelists briefly. Yeah, just the last greeting. Thank you very much for having me here. I mean, oftentimes I try to use this location for my projects, but it's not often allowed. This looks cool, like this atrium, like space. I would love to use it, so I look forward to being approved. And I love this feeling of looking down or being looked down physically. So thank you very much. Naofumi-san. Okay, I try to be brief. So 55 years ago, this alien cool. I mean, I said that was it. It was it. I felt like when it was beaten. So I talk about that special moment, and then I keep talking about this episode with my peers. So I love that, and that this DNA of Tsuburaya should be handed down and talked about. So thank you very much. Thank you, Hikawa-san. Thank you for having me. I learned a lot, and it was exciting. So thinking about 55 years ago, I mean, ULTRASEVEN should have another 55 years to survive, and I don't think I will be alive in 55 years. But at that time, I feel that essence of this projects will remain, and I hope that's how you keep talking about this to younger generations. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.